Hey, I'm Ashley Adamson, and this is Aderey.
Hi.
Yeah, Aderey, you can introduce yourself, I suppose.
Well, you already did. I'm Aderey.
And there's a lot of allergies. We're in now.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's bad. We're in Seattle, and yeah, this is my place, Aderey.
I wish you start over. That was kind of messy.
No, this is perfect. What are you doing?
That was all over the place. You got a little tissue on you guys.
Oh my god, so bad. No, I think we should keep going because that makes it real.
Okay.
Thanks for helping me move in, by the way.
Of course.
I appreciate it. Aderey and I, we met on Grindr, actually. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, meet cute girls on Grindr. That happens too.
It does sometimes.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in another video.
Next video.
Yeah, the next video. But for this video, we're going to talk about kind of like all of the things that you went through to get to where you are today. The reason why this video is important, and by the way, if you don't even know what this video is kind of about some of the hills, mountains that you need to climb to be able to give yourself a job, to make yourself a career, to get yourself somewhere. I think money problems is kind of like in every human problem, and when you're trans, that problem is amplified. Because you're harder to be hired because people don't want to hire you because you're either non-passing or the fact that you're trans or both. And then second of all, you've got all your trans problems. And then third of all, it's expensive to be trans. So the amount of money that you need and resources you need is actually higher than a traditional cis person in a lot of ways. So without further ado, I kind of wanted to bring in Aderey. Aderey.
Hi. What's up?
So we've talked a little bit about your background and your history, you and I, and I'd love to share with the viewer at home, where you started from and then how you got to your current place now where you're a contractor and you're making bank, you're doubling your income. You can make way more money with contracting for sure, but you are at a really good point right now.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for how long?
3 months.
Yes.
3.5 months.
3.5 months. So we're talking from zero experience as a contractor to 3 months being able to pay your bills and hire other people to work with you as well in 3 months with zero experience. That's pretty amazing. And you basically hired yourself and got hired by other people to... Yeah, so you create your own job. So we're going to talk about that and some of the fundamentals involved with doing this yourself. Not to become a contractor, though you can totally do that. But
fun.
Yeah, we're both self-taught in what we do, and we want you to succeed, obviously. So tell me, let's start maybe at Taco Bell. So that's where you were when you had your first job.
That was my second job, but yeah.
Okay.
So I was in school getting my bachelor's degree in business administration.
Yeah.
And I just needed a job. I was working at Taco Bell. Eventually, they made me a manager. I've always worked really hard at every job, even if there was no need to.
Yeah.
I put in no effort in school, but I always worked hard at every job I had.
So that allowed you to kind of go from entry-level Taco Bell person to Taco Bell manager?
Middle manager, yeah.
Middle manager?
Basically.
Okay, yeah.
Slightly better.
And how was that at work? Were you openly trans? Or?
I started transitioning a little right after I became a manager about that time. I got harassed a lot for it. A lot of the people who had been working there a long time would just not listen to me, and that's expected, but they would...
As a manager, though?
Yeah.
They would not listen to you because you're a manager who was trans?
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened with every manager. You get people who don't want to do anything.
Did you fire anyone?
I did fire... It was completely unrelated to me being trans. I did fire one person for not showing up multiple times.
Okay, well they would get fired for that, yeah.
But no, I was a very chill manager. I just let people do their thing.
Okay. But yeah, so you're a manager at Taco Bell, and then you're wanting to do more than Taco Bell.
Yeah, so okay. I was getting my bachelor's degree in business administration, but I was school's stupid. I don't like school. I picked business because it was generic and I could use it in whatever career I wanted. to like whatever career I wanted to pursue, I could.
Okay, yeah, so you did business, sure, yeah.
And then, but I was like not into school at all. So I finished my degree there, and right before I finished school, I got a job as a staging assistant. I wanted to like move on from Taco Bell.
And that was like super entry level, so
Yeah.
you had no experience. They were cool with you doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you being trans, were you passing at this point?
No, I wasn't passing.
Okay.
This was like 6 months into my transition.
Okay.
I wanted to get out of Taco Bell, so
We're in Seattle? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean
Seattle.
Redmond, but yeah.
Okay, Redmond, Washington, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were staging houses. People would sell their houses. We would come in and set up furniture, all that. It was like super entry level. Like I was moving furniture, steaming beds, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard like I do with every job.
Yeah.
And my boss eventually after like 6 months was like, I want to make you the warehouse manager because you're doing a lot of stuff to
I see a common
improve.
Trajectory. You get hired to be the manager eventually.
She's like, yeah, you're doing a lot to improve the warehouse and our operations, so I want you to manage the warehouse. And it's 4,000 square feet of warehouse space. It's not like a full-time job.
Okay.
But I just took on those additional responsibilities.
So I see a pattern here in your career, at least right now, and this is just also from knowing you, but it sounds like you're obsessive in the work that you do, and you're like pushing really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed this as a common trait of a subsection of trans people, this obsessiveness and this way that they kind of like look at things. And it kind of like, I don't know, kind of can bite you in the ass sometimes because you're obsessive about sometimes the wrong things.
Yeah.
But like as far as like execution and work is involved, it's clearly helping you get promoted to manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did not help me get a job once I finished school, though.
Yeah, so tell me about that. So once you finished school, you needed to actually like...
I needed to get like a career job.
A real career job.
So I was applying for mainly like warehouse management positions, like 50
because
to 60.
That was your previous experience, right?
Yeah. I was like, I want to make like 50,000 a year just like out of school. I applied for like 300 like fairly entry level jobs like that. I got maybe 20 interviews, so like 7% of the jobs I applied for responded and gave me an interview, and of those maybe like a third went to the second interview, but I just never got hired. It was kind of competitive. There were a lot of good
Tell me
candidates.
about the trans part of that.
So it's like a male dominated field, warehouse operations and logistics type stuff, like supply chain. It's definitely pretty male dominant, so I don't know, I was not passing very well, and I mean, I don't think it directly affected anything. I never got...
No one would be overtly saying, like, you're a not passing trans person, we don't want to hire you.
Right.
But I imagine if it's male-dominated, they want to hire people that look like themselves more because they can relate to that.
I was also just nervous, and I was not good at interacting with people. Yeah. And I'm still not great at it. So, I mean, I was just very awkward in the interviews. They couldn't relate to me at all. So it's like, even though I was qualified for the job and I would be good at it, I was just like not getting hired by anyone.
Yeah. So what did you do? Where is your lever point? How did you enter into where you, like, onto that path of where you are now?
I moved out on my own, and I was still managing the warehouse for the staging company. I was like not...
It's like a part-time job.
Yeah, it was like 30 hours a week. I just finished school. I was not making enough money to live off of.
Okay.
So I was like, I need to do something. So I looked into like side jobs, like DoorDash and stuff. I saw like people were doing like handyman type jobs, and I was like, okay, I can do that. I have tools. I like DIY stuff. So I started doing that, like mounting TVs for people, just general home repair stuff. And it paid like, I mean, my hourly rate for a lot of those jobs was like 30 or 40 an hour.
Nice. And where did you find these jobs?
I mainly used Angie.
Okay.
It's like similar to like DoorDash, like gig jobs, but it's like
on demand
jobs. Yeah.
Okay.
So
you were mounting TVs.
Yeah, I was mainly mounting TVs. I'd get like $60 to $90 each TV. It's
no
like,
qualifications necessary.
No, you need a drill and stud finder, and it takes half an hour, and you get like $60 after tax. So
okay, not bad.
I was like, this is a good way. I was making like $500 a week to supplement my income, and I was able to live off of that. And eventually, over time, after a few months, I started getting people who were asking me to do more. Like I would show up to do a small job, and they're like, hey, do you like do other work? So I was like, sure. And people started hiring me outside of just through the Angie app.
Yeah, so what were they hiring you for?
I did like some Christmas lights. I did just like additional
drilling holes in walls stuff.
Yeah. They'd be like, hey, can you mount this other TV for me? And we'd be like, okay. And I would just charge them a little bit more than I got paid. So they'd be paying less, but Angie wouldn't take a cut, you know?
Yeah.
And then, so then at the end of December last year, I was like, you know, I want to do this like full time, just be like a handy person / contractor. So I registered my business and I started advertising, and it took a little bit of time. I mean, the first month I got like a few customers. It was not terrible. Second month was a little bit better. And then by the third month, I was getting requests for like bigger jobs. I was getting referrals. People would like hire me for a small job, and then they'd be like, hey, I have a friend who wants this done.
Nice. And were you getting comments related to your transness, or just
like, oh yeah. One of the big advantages that I had actually was being a woman doing contracting work. Most of my customers are other women, and they don't want to deal with men in their houses. And I feel like that's a big advantage that I have in that industry.
So you're the fact that you're a trans woman actually in a male dominated field, you could actually play that up.
Yeah.
And the women wanted to hire you.
Yeah.
And from what we've talked about before, they're kind of hiring you for things you've also never done before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they wanted to hire you anyways.
I mean, they're comfortable with me being in their house. I mean, I'm like honest with them. I'm like, I never done this before, but I could figure it out. And they're like, okay. I mean, I'm not as expensive as most other contractors. So,
right.
I'm easy to work with. So people would just be patient with me and let me figure it out. And then they'd hire me for these like bigger jobs. My first actual like relatively large job was a deck demolition project. This was last month.
Yeah, I remember you sent me a picture of that.
Yeah, so we demolished this 600 square foot, like second story balcony type thing. It took 4 days. I hired one of my friends to help me with that. And we made a lot of money.
Yeah. So like you went from mounting TVs to demolishing decks. And now you're getting contracting requests for like building stuff and doing plumbing and like doing like restaurants and stuff.
This is my 4th month. January was like my first month doing it full time. So I've gotten a request to demolish a building. I've gotten a request to remodel a wine bar, although I had to turn that down because it's commercial work and it's way above my skill level.
But you even got the request. How cool is that?
I got the request and I started looking into it and I was like, I don't know, like the work's easy. I don't know how to do blueprints.
But you're gonna figure that stuff out.
Yeah, eventually I'll get there.
Yeah.
I've gotten requests to redo some bathrooms that I'm gonna start soon. So I've been getting like, bigger work, bigger
awesome.
jobs.
So let's talk about. So now we're kind of at the present moment where you are, which is still on this crazy upward growth path.
Yeah.
But can you share some of your thoughts around like things that you've learned through this process that you might be able to share with other people, especially who are trans, trying to figure out their way in making money and getting a job?
Yeah. Jobs kind of suck.
Yeah, I would agree. Jobs do suck. It's
hiring managers suck too.
Yeah, I mean, like hiring managers are kind of biased. They want to hire people that are like them or like that fit a certain criteria. And I think like when you're coming at it from like almost no experience or no experience, they're just gonna like write you off because they're gonna think you're not capable because they want to find that other person who has something in their resume that makes them feel a little bit more secure about hiring them. But like, so I don't know how much I've talked about this in previous videos, but essentially like I got hired by a startup in San Francisco to design their data visualization project. And I had design experience for just a couple years. Of course, I didn't say I only have a couple years of experience, but I presented work that made me look capable. And I think like, that like you showing up and going to these places and even just mounting TVs, it's kind of like you got a foot in the door and you were able to prove that you were capable, trustworthy, and someone that could get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, the deck demolition project, I'm like, hey, can I come check it out? I had no idea, like, how do you demolish a deck? Like,
But you didn't say that.
no,
Right.
I show up with a hard hat and a tape measure on my belt, and I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, so you look ready and capable.
I'm like, I'm gonna take some pictures. I'll get back to you with a quote tomorrow. And he's like,
Meanwhile,
"Hey."
you're like Googling.
I'm like, how do you demolish a deck? How long is this gonna take? Where do we dump everything?
Right.
Like,
So you just ask a bunch of questions
Yeah.
while you're at the
yeah,
the gig.
take pictures. Be like, I'll get back to you with a quote. Never done it. Yeah, I've done it. I've done it before. Yeah.
Yeah, you just say
gotcha.
that, right? That's kind of what I said when
Yeah.
I was like talking to this startup. So it's kind of, you know, you've heard of fake it till you make it. The only thing that I don't like with this idea of fake it till you make it is you believe in the story of faking it. And I don't think you are faking it at all. Like you're capable as a person, you're smart, you know how to push and learn. And if you have those capabilities, it doesn't really mean that you're faking it, you're just making it, you know, if that makes sense.
You pretend you know how to do it, and then you actually do learn how to do it.
Yeah, you don't tell them that you don't know how to do it, but you
Yeah.
don't let that stand in the way of you doing it. And I think that's a mental thing as well as like a communication thing. You don't tell them that you haven't done it before. But I think like if they believe in you and you believe in yourself, you can get it done. Now, don't go off and build a skyscraper or something like that.
I'm a few years away from doing that.
Yeah, we talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, like what else can we kind of like talk about in terms of like, because you mentioned some things, you had previous experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been into DIY projects.
Right,
and,
right.
I mean, I built furniture and stuff like that. I had studied like electrical engineering a little bit on my own.
Yeah.
Just doing things with like breadboard circuits and
So
stuff
you
like
kind
that.
of had pieced together some of the things that you had previously studied.
Yeah.
But like it didn't come together until you started mounting TVs, which is not what you were thinking about when you were studying all these other things.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna mount TVs when I grow up.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, anything like, you know, doing like electrical work or plumbing, anything like that. I mean, I already had all the tools for it. I had most of the knowledge required. I just had to figure out specifically how do you do it to code and how do you do it with the materials that
Right.
are normally used for that.
Right, and then you said sometimes you would borrow your dad's tools too.
Yeah, my dad had a few tools that I would borrow.
And you would not return for a while.
I've returned all of them at this point. Yeah, no, I was like, I don't want to spend any money on this, like, just stuff that I already have or I can borrow from friends or parents.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that because like before I got in as a product designer, I was running a product design shop and I hadn't done the product design, but I was running the shop. I was aware of the process, how to talk about it, how to talk like a tech person. But I even taught myself how to do that because I was a DJ before that. But I'd done like party flyers, event promotion, like branding for like band t-shirts, all of that little Photoshop stuff kind of led me up to becoming familiar with the tools that I needed in order to design software. And so then it was kind of like, I guess like the final notch on like this compounding knowledge growth. So maybe this is something to think about for yourself is like, what experiences do you have earlier in your life where you can stitch them together to potentially build off of into a new skill set that you can sell and you can like charge money for.
And every time I get into a hobby or a job, I try and learn as much as possible. Like I was working at Taco Bell, I was managing the inventory for the store. I really got into like how to manage inventory. I automated it with a spreadsheet. Like I was spending time learning, even though I wasn't getting paid very much money for it. I was like, I want to learn how to do this.
There's that obsessive bit, right?
And same with the staging company. I mean, I was getting paid like not as much as I was worth, you know, but I was spending I came up with like blueprints and a layout for a new warehouse we moved into. I was like looking up how to optimize warehouse flow and how to design a warehouse from scratch. And I was really getting into learning how to do that. So I've always been into just learning how to do everything that I do.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one too, is like this learner attitude, right? Like being able to treat things as like with curiosity and wanting to learn and grow in that. Like when you're starting out, you have such a deficit of like knowledge that you need to gain. You kind of need to double down and like learn more than what you're used to, which is good coming out of school. Now, like the trans aspect of things, like what is I think we're gonna run out of time soon.
This is 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think there's like an automatic timer that stops.
Do you want to start over? Because I feel like this is a little...
Oh, no, this is now like a podcast.
Oh, this is a podcast.
This is now like a podcast. But like can we talk about the trans part for a second? So like how was the trans aspect of your experience related or like it ingrained in this? And I know you're like, oh, like it was fine. But I mean, like as you're looking back now, I think you're starting to see things, right?
I mean, it kind of forced me to leave Taco Bell because I was getting harassed a lot there, and I needed to change into a new environment where people didn't care that I was trans.
Do you think that they didn't care that you were trans in construction and like contracting stuff?
I mean, I don't really work with other people too much right now.
Right. So you're just working on your own. So like the fact that you're not a man showing up to a woman's house and being inside of her house and like working on stuff in a very like that's a very intimate setting, right? Like if I need a light in my bedroom, having a man in my room do stuff like is probably a little bit more intimidating than having a woman. Yeah. So isn't that interesting how you're able to actually thrive in a male-dominated field because of the fact that you're a woman? Like,
and the other thing is the people hiring me aren't hiring managers. They're regular people who want work done for themselves. So it's the customers who are hiring me.
And they're kind of like evaluating you from a different perspective. They're not like, how's this person gonna operate on my team? They're like, how does this person make me feel when they come into my household? How safe do I feel? And are they able to do the job? Yeah. And like, do your clients notice that you're trans, or do they not know?
I assume they do. Okay. I mean, I don't pass super well.
I mean, I think you pass.
I get gendered. Thanks. I get gendered correctly most of the time.
Same. Most of the time.
But I mean, I don't ask like, hey, did you know I'm trans? You know, like I mean, I don't ask them that. So I don't know.
I get it. There's those allergies. Well, like let's close up and we'll talk about giving dick to girls in this next episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really good spicy one. Oh yeah, it'll be spicy. Well, yeah, it's definitely spicy. Okay. I mean, I'm gonna ask you all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us today. If you are trans and you are looking to join the community that I have, go check out the Trans Club. And if you'd like to support this channel so we can like do more editing, more thumbnails, stuff like that, it'll help me a lot to subscribe and to become a member. And yeah, I'll see you in another episode soon. We will see you in another episode soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Aderey. Bye, everyone.